Today's episode is brought to you by applaudable.net.
Giving ourselves the positive, what we're going to do, is so much more helpful than saying what we want to avoid. So traditionally what psychology has always done is tried to understand the human condition. So it's tried to get a handle on, the experiences that people might have in life, particularly the adversities. So if someone's going through depression or anxiety or any one of those conditions that's so commonly experienced by so many people, and tried to understand it, look at what are interventions, how can we help people? And that's been really important, and that work continues to be important. And then I guess what happened was there was a professor by the name of Donald Clift, and he asked the profession what would happen if we studied what's right with people. And psychology kind of had an aha moment at that point where we realised that we didn't really have an organised understanding about the positive side of life, So particularly in the world of sport, when we're looking at success and achievement and personal best and effort, and then when we go further afield and we look at things like kindness and happiness and gratitude and all these kinds of things, we really didn't have a science that was well based around that. So that's what the field of positive psychology then started to explore, and I guess that all came about when I was graduating from uni. So perfect timing for me, particularly wanting to work in the sports setting. My honours research was in sports psychology. My PhD was in sports psychology. So it was a natural place to sort of house myself, and that's where I've spent my career working within that discipline, and helping people to set their goals, achieve their goals, and deal with the setbacks along the way.
Yeah, sure. So one of the references you also make in the book is to the concept of the mental game, and that athletes are honing their skills more or less physically. Do you want to refer to why, as a tool, psychology is important to athletes and individuals to improve their performance, where it can help, and also why this concept of a mental muscle that the brain and our habits and things can be formed over time to improve our performance?
Yeah, absolutely. I think most people could probably think of times in their lives where the things that you engage in are influenced by the way that you think. That's essentially what we're looking at there, that the way, one of the catchphrases from positive psychology is that the way that you think matters. And I know that seems like it's stating the obvious. And what I find when I'm talking to people, whether it be in corporate settings or sports settings, is people not in agreement and then go, yes, but I don't know how to do that, So there's some challenges around that. So if you look at it from a sports perspective, and we've just been through the grand finals recently for many of the codes, most of those athletes would say that as they line up for those games, which is just another game, it's another 80 minutes, the rules haven't changed, nothing's changed, but the outcome's changed. And so therefore the experience of going through something like a grand final can as much be, I think, at that point in time in the season, as much a psychological competition as it is obviously a physical and a tactical one. So it's the athletes who can refine their physical skills, who know the tactics and so forth of their craft, but it's also those athletes that can get on top of the mental game that I think will probably then maximise their potential for success.
You've worked with two professional teams that are in your part of the world, and obviously a number of athletes within those teams and external those teams. How important is the concept of mental resilience and the ability to actually block out the negative to focus on an outcome?
Crucially important is what I would suggest is the case, because whenever we encounter any situation, there's a range of ways we can think about it and conceptualize it. So and you mentioned before habits, and I'm so glad that you did, because what we tend to do is we think in habits. We've been doing it for a long period of time, and we tend to go into a default position and maybe not necessarily pay as much attention to the decisions that we make. So say, for example, if something goes wrong in our sport, whatever it is, we drop the ball or we miss something or whatever it is that we do, it's not so much what happens to us, it's really about how we think about it that becomes important once it's done. Because as you've referred to, once it's done, you can't do too much about it, but it's what you do next that you can do something about it. So if you spend the next few moments reliving the mistake, thinking about it over and over again, replaying it over and over again in your heads, when I talk to my students about the importance of mental imagery, we shouldn't be surprised if we see ourselves making a mistake that we then go out and we make it, So at that point in time where, say, we've dropped the ball, if that's, let's go literally with we've dropped the ball, whatever the sport might be, the best visual for us is to think about ourselves catching it. And I know, it's interesting when you hear coaches and when you talk at athletes, talking about what it is that they need to do. One of the unhelpful things that you can say in sport in that example is don't drop it. Because what happens is you see yourself dropping it. And it's almost like the brain puts a big line through the don't bit and just hears drop it. And so what you've actually got to do is save the athlete some mental energy and say, catch the ball. So I worked with a boxer many, many years ago, and I don't profess to know a lot about boxing, but the situation was quite evident when that boxer was frequently ending up back on the ropes at the start of their fight, which I know enough about boxing to know that's not where you want to be. And when we sort of dug into it a little bit further to see what was actually going on, the parting words from the trainer as the boxer stepped into the ring was stay off the ropes. And so no surprises, that's exactly where the athlete was ending up. So then when I said to the trainer, knowing the answer, but I said to him, where would you like the athlete to be? And he said, well, in the middle. And I said, well, say that. I've always said it's the easiest money I've ever earned because, he said stay in the middle and he stayed in the middle. So, we're very responsive to the things we say both to ourselves and the things we say to each other. And I think that's something that we can apply in sport. We can apply that in life too. So, giving ourselves the positive, what we're going to do is so much more helpful than saying what we want to avoid.
Thanks for joining us for a basketball conversation. Feel free to start a conversation of your own with other Ausswoosh superfans by commenting below. And I look forward to sharing our next conversation with you soon. I hope you'll join us again sometime. Catch you later.